Hello everyone. This video I'm going to be going over day 1 of Advent of Code 2023 and showing off my solution written in Python. Alright, let's get right into it. Start out by looking at the problem. So for part 1, we're considering inputs that look like this, where each line is a series of numbers and letters. And what we're looking for is a calibration value, which is essentially putting together the first and last digit on each line, forming a single two-digit number. Then we sum those up to get our solution. So going through this example, on this first line, the first digit is 1, the last digit is 2, which gives us a value of 12 for this line. This next line, first digit is 3, last digit is 8, so we have 38. On this next line, we can see that we have a bunch of digits, but we're only caring about the first, which is 1, and the last, which is 5, giving us a value of 15. Then on this final line, just one digit, 7, so 7 is both the first and last, giving us a value of 77. So now this is pretty straightforward, and let's look at how we can code up a solution. So here's my solution implemented in Python. So first, in this main function, I simply read in the file from the as a command line argument, and then pass that file to a part1 function where I get the solution. So now looking at this part1 function, I start by initializing a variable that'll track the total of the values on each line. Then I iterate over each line, setting up two variables to track the first and last digit. So yeah, now I iterate over each character in the line, perform a check to see if it's a digit. So this is numeric, will return true for if the character is 1, 2, 3, or another digit, and false otherwise. So if that's true, we want to update the first digit variable only if the first digit is not set. So essentially, if we've already seen a digit, so say in that first example, we first, on this first character, the first digit would be updated, but then when we see this second digit, first digit is already set, so we won't override it. For the last digit, however, we do want to override it every time we see a new digit, so I update it every time. I then perform a little bit of validation just to make sure that we actually found a digit on each line. This isn't going to be relevant for part 1, but for part 2, some of these inputs will actually not have digits in them. And since the way I've set up my program is it's finding the part 1 and part 2 solution, I just have it return none if part 1 can't process it. Then simply concatenate the two digits and cast that to an integer, add it to the total, which I then return. So I think we can run on that first example. We can see that solution of 142 is indeed correct. Yeah, so that's part 1. This is pretty straightforward, and we can move on to part 2. So in part 2, we're now looking at inputs like this, which contain not only digits, but words that spell out the digits, such as in this line we have 2 and 9. So essentially we can go through each string and we have to care about not just the individual digits, but the words, the digits that are spelled out in words. So here, the first digit is going to be 2, the final digit is going to be 9, so we have a value of 29 for this line. Here, we can see that the first digit is 8, the last digit is 3, so we have 83. We can see, however, that there's something a little bit tricky going on where we have 8 and 2, but they're overlapping. And our solution is going to have to account for the fact that digits could be overlapping. Now moving on to this second example, this third example, sorry. you can see that there can be a combination of these like single character, just the digits themselves and the words. So here the first digit is going to be 2, the final digit is going to be 3, and so on. I think, yeah, this is pretty straightforward. Now looking at the code for this, we can see that overall the structure is quite similar to the part 1 solution, but with a little added complexity. So similarly, we initialize a total variable to 0, then iterate over the lines, keeping track of the first and last digit. Then, as we iterate over the characters, we perform the exact same check as in part 1, where if that character is a digit itself, then we want to update the first and last digit accordingly. Now this is the new part for part 2. If it's the character is not a digit, so it's a letter, we want to check if we have a word, one of the digits spelled out, starting at this position. So here I have this number strings dictionary, which we can see here is just a mapping of the digits spelled out as words to the digits values. And whoops. We can see that here I'm iterating over the items, the keys and values in this dictionary. And so essentially what we're doing is checking that each line starting at the ith character, checking if that, using this handy string.startsWith method, is equal to the current number word. So if we have the same, if we do have a match here, we can update the first and last digit with that number. And yeah, otherwise we do the same check, but the total is similarly just updated using concatenating these two digits together and casting it to an integer. Now if we run on that second example, we can see that we have a value of 281 for part 2, which is indeed correct. So before I end, just one little wrinkle that I think caused some people some trouble is that here we're performing explicit checks as we iterate over each line, which works well. That's a good solution. I think for some people in their part 1 solution, instead of iterating over the string as we do here, instead took a different approach, which works really well for part 1, which is to define something like a digits list, where this is going to contain all of the digits in the string. So just for example, what that'll look like is so here we're creating digits when then, which contains like all the digits in the line. Then we have that the first digit is the first element in this list, and the final digit is the last element in this list. And yeah, so this works totally fine for part 1. In fact, it is probably a better solution than what we have here. It's super simple, easy to understand, doesn't involve any for loops. However, when we try and extend this to a part 2 solution, it's not so clear how we would do that. I think what some people tried to do is replace words in the string. So for example, they'd call something like line.replace 2 with the digit 2 itself, and then creating this digits array. Where that fails is in the edge case we looked at here, where, for example, if we check 2 before 8, we will replace this substring with the digit 2, and then we no longer have 8 at the front. It's just the first 4 characters because we've replaced the 3 characters that comprise the 2 with the digit 2 itself. And so there are like some sort of hacky ways to get around this. One thing I saw was something like this, but I think where we're preserving before and after the digit itself, the letters, um, and then you can use this digits array. But yeah, I just feel that this is a little hacky, and these explicit checks that we have here work well and are a little bit easier to understand why that works. So yeah, I think that's it for this video, and thanks for watching, and let me know any feedback in the comments. Thanks.